G.I. Jane is a story about a female lieutenant who is given an opportunity to earn her place in Navy SEALs, and she is not going to let this opportunity slide away, even when there's a lot of people who are rooting for her to fail. The movie begins with an interview, and this is not an ordinary interview. A man is interviewing for the position of Secretary of the Navy. However, Senator Lillian DeHaven isn't very pleased about how the Navy hasn't been gender neutral. So, in a secret meeting, a deal is struck. A series of tests will be done involving both men and women, and if the women perform better or similar to men in those tests, the military will happily add more women into the Navy. To prove their point, the male senators decide on having the first test as the training course of the U.S. Navy Combined Reconnaissance Team. With a dropout rate of 60%, the men believe no women will ever stand a chance. As for the participant, Senator Lillian picks topographical analyst, Lieutenant Jordan O'Neill. And the reason behind this is Senator Lillian believes she has a more of a feminine look, and if she passes the tests, she will have proven that any woman can be a part of the Navy, and women don't always need to look physically strong. But Jordan O'Neill isn't very excited about being a poster girl for this women's rights experiment. However, when her husband thinks she won't last the tests competing with men, Jordan takes it as a challenge. She arrives at the training center and word soon gets out, and the men at the training center start questioning her ability. O'Neill joins the other men for dinner, but they don't receive her very well and make sexist remarks. Next day at training, we see the tough Command Master Chief John James, who is very intimidating and isn't going easy on anyone. The training begins and it's as hard as it gets. O'Neill, as expected, doesn't get treated any differently. Even while training, O'Neill doesn't escape sexist remarks from the other trainees. Forget all in physical training, the trainees are even required to push each other to get their food. It's total chaos, and O'Neill really struggles to get her food. Days and nights go by, and the intense training doesn't stop. Later on, they even have to get their food from the garbage bin. At every step of the training, John James asks them to quit if they feel like it. He even tries to motivate them into quitting. After hours of training, he orders them to write an essay, and then plays soothing opera music to make them fall asleep. The ones who end up sleeping will get thrown out of the camp. During one obstacle course, O'Neill gets a 30 seconds head start which O'Neill protests against, as she wants to be treated equally. But she has no choice but to follow the rules set by the training officers. During the course, the Master Chief John James observes O'Neill helping other trainees by letting them climb on her back to get past a hurdle. As the training gets more and more intense, more of the trainees start to quit, but O'Neill still holds strong. O'Neill has still not gotten over the fact that she was given a 30 seconds head start of the obstacle course, so she tries to talk to the commanding officer to try to get her treated equally in all terms. But what she ends up getting is sexist remarks from the officer, who makes it quite clear that he isn't liking the idea of having a woman in his camp. Due to being treated like this, O'Neill goes to a barber shop and cuts her hair, giving up her feminine look. But she isn't done with that. Earlier, she had a separate room away from the male trainees, but now she decides to join the boys in their room. Most of the men in the room have a problem with O'Neill being in there, and the problem is that she has brought tampons with her. Anyway, John James also notices O'Neill and doesn't take this approach from her very happily. Back to the men who suggested Navy CRT training, they aren't very happy with the news that O'Neill has survived 3 weeks in the camp. And even with this experiment being secret, O'Neill's achievements so far have managed to get on the news, and some are even calling her G.I. Jane, since they don't know her real name. Back to the training, it has gotten more extreme, but G.I. Jane is still holding on. In fact, she is training even harder to prove all those sexist men wrong. She has really toughened up. Meanwhile, the news reporters are really desperate to get a news piece on G.I. Jane, the tough woman to endure the hard Navy training. And then one day, when O'Neill is showering all by herself, Master Chief John James decides to show up. When O'Neill said she wanted to be treated equally like her male counterparts, I don't think she meant to come see her naked. Anyway, John James gives her some thoughts on leadership and leaves. Now back to the men, they're really frustrated by how O'Neill has lasted 8 weeks, and even going head-to-head with men. But they're still hopeful that she'll quit after the SERE training, which stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. In the SERE training, the trainees are dropped out of an airplane. They now must reach a target, get enough information, and retreat. But the training is made to look really real, so there's a chance they might get captured. During the mission, 2 trainees get captured and one breaks his leg. And while trying to help him, O'Neill also gets herself caught. All the ones that got captured are treated exactly how they would get treated if they were in a real situation. They're just trainees, but the officers play it real and don't even help the guy who had his leg broken. They actually torture him into giving them information, which in this scenario means quitting. When it's time for O'Neill, she gets questioned by none other than John James himself. With her hands tied behind her back, John James starts to beat her mercilessly. When the other officer believes that it's getting too violent, John James just orders him to get out. He then grabs O'Neill by her head and slams her through the door. Then in front of everyone, he drowns her head in the ice-cold water. He basically tortures O'Neill to get her teammates to give up information. But O'Neill strongly tells her teammates to stay silent. And then John James takes it really far. He tries to assault her, saying this all could happen in a real situation. But then O'Neill retaliates and manages to hit John James, and for good riddance, she hits him where it hurts the most. But John James gets up and knocks her out. He then goes towards her teammates, justifying his action by saying he's doing this to make her realize that she isn't born for fighting. Hearing all this nonsense, O'Neill tells John James to suck on it. I can't say what she actually said, but you get it. Now, all the male trainees are cheering on O'Neill, and after all this, it seems O'Neill has earned some respect from John James. The news of G.I. Jane passing the SERA training gets to Senator Lillian, who is really happy about this. Following her show of bravery, O'Neill has started to get respect from her peers, who now treat her as an equal and as a friend. One day when O'Neill is out with her female friends on a beach, someone secretly manages to click her pictures. Then the pictures are sent to the higher-ups, who question O'Neill if she's homosexual. O'Neill gets told that getting her pictures taken while she was on training is a disgrace to them and their organization. So as it stands, O'Neill will lead training so that the whole photographs are investigated. And O'Neill will now have a desk job, which she strongly protests against. She wants to continue her training and believes that someone is trying to sabotage her training. But she gets told that once she gets cleared after the investigation, she will be able to rejoin the training from the start, which means everything she went through so far will go in vain. Infuriated by how everyone is trying to ruin her, O'Neill rings the bell 3 times, signaling that she is voluntarily withdrawing from the program rather than get stuck with a desk job. O'Neill then returns back home to her husband, who has something to share. O'Neill's husband shows him that the anonymous photographs were sent from none other than Senator Lillian DeHaven's office, the very person that wanted her to succeed in order to prove women empowerment. But why did she do so? Turns out, Senator Lillian was just using O'Neill. She wanted her to succeed just enough to scare her male counterparts. And when O'Neill was just about to pass, Lillian used her as a bargaining chip with the Navy to prevent military base closings from her home state of Texas. Even when O'Neill confronts the senator about this, she plays it like she doesn't know anything at all. But later on, Senator Lillian comes clean and accepts that she used her to gain political favors. After hearing it from the devil's mouth, O'Neill threatens to expose her. She isn't afraid to talk to the press about how the senator was using a woman to advance her career. With that, O'Neill reports back to training, where she is warmly welcomed by her peers. Now the final phase of the training starts. Before the final training could start, it is interrupted by an emergency that requires the CRT trainees' immediate support. The situation is this: an observation satellite powered by weapons-grade plutonium has fallen into the Libyan desert. A team of U.S. Army Rangers were dispatched to retrieve the plutonium, but their evacuation plan fell flat. And now the trainees are sent to assist the Rangers in their evacuation plan. O'Neill is on the verge of getting noticed by a Libyan soldier, so in order to save her, Master Chief John James shoots the Libyan soldier, which blows their cover. Now the Libyan patrol knows about the presence of the U.S. military on their territory, and a confrontation between the two parties breaks out, and John James has to get far away from his team. When O'Neill sees the team's map, she realizes that Master Chief is not going to use the route the others believe he will take in regrouping with others. So Master Chief is currently taking the wrong direction and is in some serious trouble. But O'Neill is here to save the day. With the leader gone, O'Neill steps up. She displays a definitive ability in leadership and strategy while rescuing the injured Master Chief, whom she and her teammate McCool pull out of an explosives-laden kill zone. Soon they receive backup in helicopter gunships, which deliver the final assault, and the rescue mission is a success. Upon their return, all those who participated in the mission are accepted to the CRT. Later, Mr. John James gives O'Neill his Navy Cross and a book of poetry containing a short poem, Self-Pity, by D.H. Lawrence, as acknowledgement of her accomplishment and in gratitude for rescuing him. And that's how the movie ends. You know what? This movie was decent. I liked it. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Anyways, thank you for watching the video, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to never miss out on future videos.